Episode 60. We don't need time wasted by the spaceship being panned around. It just makes me feel like it's ripping off Star Trek. How are palm trees surviving on top of the spaceship in a vacuum? And why is our time being wasted by a flashback of Shadow talking to Chris and saving the world again? Padding, that's why. It's just so off-putting because not even Sonic Underground had padding that literally reused footage from the previous episodes. We actually start out with Chris being woken up by an alarm from Tails because he found another emerald at night, and Chris says he had a weird dream. He did? Did he dream about the Shadow flashbacks? Chris walks past Tails looking really nervous, and Sonic says that Chris is all sweaty, and it turns out it's because he had a nightmare. Is our time going to be wasted because he has homesickness? Because that would be the most pointless subplot ever, even if it would be realistic. You don't see any of the other characters missing their home. Rouge wants an emerald, but of course she's not allowed to steal that either, as Eggman's robots panic at an intruder in their secret lab. Eggman finds out that Rouge has discovered Shadow in his base, and he opens the door for her to get out of the lab. And Eggman says that Rouge is a member of his team and his guest. It makes sense that he'd want to take advantage of her. I felt pretty bad for Bokoon when he's whining because he was scared of Rouge. And a big part of that was that he was hugging a robot's side like he was a scared little kid. Logically, if anything happened to Eggman, all three of these robots would become good guys. They're just not nearly evil enough to want to be a danger on their own. Amy insists that behind every great man is a great woman guiding him. I doubt that. Since when is Amy an awful feminist character? Is that why she's supposed to be so bitchy in the show? To make her, and not to mention in Team Sonic Racing and Sonic Freeriders too? Mainly the latter. Is it supposed to be that they think, oh, let's make her a feminist, and that requires making her bitchy? Of course. But that doesn't make her an admirable female character if you're hating her the whole time. Chris wonders how long the planet they're on has been deserted. And Tails calls Amy and says that according to his scanner, the chaos energy is much stronger in that old castle. I guess something bad's gonna happen in there. Good thing Amy's got Sonic and Knuckles for bodyguards. They walk through the fog, and when Knuckles asks if she's getting a reading, Amy makes me giggle by saying, and Amy says her search instincts are perfect. And I guess this is supposed to be a joke where she'll be wrong. This is why you shouldn't make a character too incompetent. The audience loses respect for them. She goes through the castle and enters an empty room alone. I guess the doors will close shut behind them since all of them went to an empty room. Knuckles says the emerald is moving and a spotlight briefly shows up on them. And Knuckles tells Amy to check the scanner, which has an error, and Sonic says it disappeared. Knuckles thinks it's a trap. Shouldn't that have been obvious from the start? Amy wishes that Knuckles went in first instead of Sonic, and Cosmo is clumsy and has to fly into a room to go get the flashlight. Her very inexplicable emphasis on clumsiness of all things, when I wouldn't expect her to be a comedy character, makes me worry that she's only got this klutziness so she wouldn't be accused of being a Mary Sue. Clumsiness is always a common Mary Sue tacked-on flaw to begin with. Besides, Cosmo is so angsty that she can't be a straight Mary Sue because her whininess is a flaw, so she's more like an angsty Sue, or whatever it's called. They fall in through a mirror and somehow don't get hurt by jumping through glass together, and they get walled in. Is this a typical stupid haunted house scare factor episode? It's nice to see a message from an actual Mobian. It makes me wish that this was way more common in Sonic X. I was so distracted by him being a Mobian in Sonic X that I barely heard his message. Apparently he warns Cosmo with a hologram that the metrics could destroy them all. Cosmo thinks the heroes are foolish for thinking they can stop the metrics, and yet she's not a bad guy taunting them that it's hopeless to fight back, and instead she's a hero, when that's no different from what the metrics all say. Tails calls Cosmo, saying that his link with Amy cut off. We see the castle looking weird in the distance. I really wish I knew why the castle was acting this weird because it feels very arbitrary, like that old castle episode in Sonic Underground. The heroes jump out of the castle and a great tentacle grabs Sonic and pulls him into the pink goop, which actually taunts the heroes with a pun. Huh? It's intimidating though. Tails' plane avoids the great goop shutout and sends a ring into it to power up Sonic, and it gets knocked down in a spin dash instead of Deus Ex Machina. Knuckles grabs Sonic in his fall and uses his glide to spin him around as they fly through the air and get to safety. Knuckles wonders what that thing's gonna turn into next. I've just been confused since Sonic went to the castle. What's going on? This isn't sci-fi like. Rouge is bribed with the potential to get an emerald by Eggman. And Cream in the spaceship near Tails fires a laser, and Knuckles says they've got it, but then the overly creepy monster above them transforms into a talking fanged mouth in the obvious attempt at just scaring the audience. And he fires lasers down at them, which all conveniently miss. Cream worries that the shield won't hold much longer, so their lasers are ricocheting off a force field. Tails thinks that the Metrox had swallowed a Chaos Emerald, so is that why it's so weird? Chris fires a whole bunch of rings towards Sonic from the airship, and this sends Sonic upwards in a tractor beam as he flies in his hover shoes, and he goes into his spin dash, and the next thing we know, all of a sudden he's being electrocuted by lightning in the sky. I mean, he did go up in a lightning storm. He opens his eyes surprisingly quickly though, and he warns Chris to turn around in his plane, and it starts spinning out of control. I like that the plots are more fast-paced in Season 3. They're keeping my attention better with the constant action. Shadow escapes his pod with the Chaos Emerald he woke up with. I guess the Emerald, when Sonic scattered it, teleported to Shadow when he was recovering just to be nice to him? Why did they all go to him then? And Shadow warps out of the room right before Rouge and Eggman can find him. That's different from Heroes, so good, something unique. There's an explosion that makes Sonic worry about Chris. I'm sure he's fine since it's a kids show, and that's the problem with gutless shows pretending to be gutsy. Nobody's fooled. Shadow then teleports over to them, and Chris is happy to see him. Shadow, with 2 emeralds floating around him, warps away again. What, did he teleport here by accident? Why did he warp in front of the heroes at all then? Oh, I guess he warped here just to steal an emerald from the bad guy. But then why on earth did he warp to Eggman? He then passes out for no reason at all. Was this episode released on Halloween? Because it's off-putting how desperately hard they tried to scare you out of nowhere. It's not like it was a ghost. It was a haunted castle, but it was a Metrox doing it somehow. But apparently he did all that freaky stuff where he was transforming into whatever he wanted because he had a Chaos Emerald. Because there's no limits to what they'll let you do. If they can let you do anything, ever, then why didn't Eggman wish to conquer the world with them? And Shadow wakes up and teleports to the bad guy because he magically knows exactly where his emerald is. Because apparently Shadow has a Chaos Emerald radar in Sonic X. So he psychically knows where every emerald is. Odd. I never saw that in SE2. Sure would be convenient for Sonic if he had Shadow with him so he could warp to all the emeralds right away. Of course, I'm sure that his radar is super short range since he didn't warp to literally every emerald to get it in a row. He just warped to the one closest to him. So he's not that overpowered with his radar power. It's not like he could warp to every emerald in seconds. The heroes already have a radar anyways. I liked how fast-paced and action-packed the story was when we were at the big climax, where so many things were going on in a row to keep me typing. The castle kept doing weird stuff trapping the heroes, and the Metrox was being a big threat to Sonic no matter how many raids he took advantage of, which is a nice subversion. And I love that Rouge is working for Eggman again, because I always thought that was where she was at her best. As a humorous sidekick to Eggman who was constantly teasing him, while being competent enough to be worth it because she can fly. And she's not a robot, so I'm not asking why he doesn't reprogram her or scrap her for teasing him. I think she might make a better sidekick than Orbot and Cuba, actually. It makes sense that this manipulative, selfish jewel thief would take advantage of Eggman for all he's worth. It's pretty smart of her to do, particularly if she knows that Eggman would always fail at his big plans regardless, so there's nothing to fear from helping him. But it's dumb of Eggman to not suspect her of being a double agent against them. But she is pretty slimy, so it would make sense that she wouldn't care what side she's on as long as she benefits from it. I don't care what side she's on either. I just want her character to be treated with dignity, finally, instead of her being humiliated all the time by constant failure. And I do respect her as a villain with the way she's threatening Bokkun now. It makes her look smart and competent, and Bokkun look really sympathetic.